What's your feeling
Yeah,
right now?
and the bottom line is whether we get a 50 or 75, and I think the market's pricing in a 75,
Yeah.
the market is rallying and we're well off the recent lows on the hope that he's going to pause. So we're not talking about a real pivot in that he would start to cut. That's not going to happen. But the market just wants him to step back for a few months and reevaluate the data
Mhm.
for like 2 or 3 months in a row. And so I think that's what the market is hoping for. And if he does do that, I think you see a bounce or a pop in the markets on Friday.
Could we get a decent bounce in the crypto markets in November? At least three popular crypto analysts agree there is a high possibility of Moonvember, despite the increasing uncertainty from the macro environment. In a recent interview on the Barron network, popular technical analyst and veteran trader Gareth Soloway discusses his views on Bitcoin, Ether, and XRP, just as the Federal Reserve is poised to announce the next direction for the U.S. economy. As he has stated in earlier interviews and tweets, Soloway expects another massive interest rate hike announcement during the FOMC meeting. But he also expects the committee to show signs of slowing down on its aggressive interest rate hikes and allow the economy to process the shock from the previous hikes. If this happens, Soloway is convinced it would send a bullish signal to the markets, and we could see crypto asset prices begin to pop before the week ends. Two pseudonymous Bitcoin analysts have also tweeted about a possible pop in November. We bring you all these and more in this video. So sit back, relax, and watch the video to the end. Also, ensure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything helps with the YouTube algorithm so our videos can reach more crypto lovers. Thanks and enjoy the video. Let's begin with Gareth Soloway's thoughts about the FOMC meeting and how it could impact Bitcoin and, by extension, the entire cryptocurrency market.
If he still talks about raising in December another 50 or 25, I think the market's going to get pretty scared again that he's overdoing it and you're going to be pushing this market into potential major recession, not just minor. Minor's kind of the base case at this point for me.
Yeah.
It's a matter of how bad does it get, because again, we haven't even, he's raised now 375s, probably
Mhm.
four. You could argue that maybe only one of those rate hikes has filled into the economy at this point. And so there's a lot of filtering that needs to go on, and we have to see where the economy stands at that point. And that's scary to me. Yeah, so I still think that they're working with yesterday's news in terms of the inflation levels. I've been very shocked, to be honest, that they haven't discounted the strong jobs numbers more.
Mhm.
Maybe it's just because the inflation data has stayed so strong that they're willing to not play into the jobs data being a lagging indicator. But I do think that at this stage, they're going to find themselves. And you saw, I mean, there was like $1 trillion that investors had kind of squirreled away for
Yeah.
spending during COVID and after COVID here, and they paid down credit card debt. If you look at the recent credit card numbers, credit card debt is soaring again. And so what you're seeing is an investor or the citizens of the US at least that are at a point where they're getting back to their levels of debt that they were, and they will
Mhm.
have to be cut off, or they will cut themselves off at some point if the economy starts to weaken significantly. So I am concerned that I think the Fed again is going to overdo it, just like they they overdid it with stimulus and thinking it was transitory. I think they're going to
Mhm.
overdo it here and then have to play catch up. And honestly, wouldn't shock me to see interest rates go down in late 2023 or early 2024. Flip over to Bitcoin, and basically what we have on Bitcoin, we had a breakout that occurred about 10 days ago here, right? So we had this beautiful downsloping trend line, and this is something I was expecting. I think last time I was on, I said we might go as high as 22,500, maybe 25 on this pump, but it was all predicated that we would break out of this channel, right? Or this wedge pattern. And that's exactly what we did. And now what you're getting here after we got this 2-bar move up, we're basically seeing sideways chop. Well, as of now, that sideways chop is called bullish consolidation. And
Yeah.
what's interesting is it's consolidating into the Fed on Wednesday. So my guess is we're going to stay sideways choppy into the Fed on Wednesday. And then you're either going to see the most probable outcome, which will be a move up, or if the probabilities fail, then you'd see the downside move. But I would favor the upside with a target here of around 22,500 near term. Maybe max upside would be 25 over the next month or so into year end. Yeah, so I do agree that we're closer to the bottom, considering 69,000 to
Sure.
20,000 is yeah. But so I mean, this is the issue: is that I think we're all in agreement that at some point Bitcoin is going to pivot into a safety trade. But the question is when is that going to happen? And I just don't see it yet. It's still too speculative. We don't have the framework for regulation out there yet that's going to get money, the big money, comfortable enough to get into Bitcoin as a safety asset. At this point, there's still a lot of money that's too scared to even go near it. So I think, again, yes, I agree that will happen. But for me, it's more of a 6-12 month out type thing before we see that pivot. And that still leaves the door open for the next equity dump to cause Bitcoin to also have a dump.
Soloway predicts a decent Bitcoin pop before year end to $22,500 or $25,000. However, he is still bearish in the near term due to the uncertainty about regulation for the crypto markets in the United States. Suppose we do get a hint of a Fed pivot after the next rate hike and some regulatory clarity in 2023. Could the cryptocurrency industry somehow avoid a new low and finally get decoupled from the equities market? Let us know what you think in the comments section below as Soloway speaks further about a Fed pivot, Ether, and XRP.
I do. In fact, I think that you saw the first flicker of the Fed, pausing because of the currency issues that the US dollar is now inflicting on places like the UK, the European Union, as well as in Japan with the Japanese central bank actually intervening in their currency markets as well. And so I think, weirdly enough, everyone says, the stock market being down is why the Fed's going to do it, or the economy or the economic data. I actually don't think any of those. I think if you weren't seeing the pressures of potential global currency collapse out there, the Fed would probably be looking to do another 50 in December or so after a 75 on Monday. But it's at a point where they really can't. And these central banks, and by the way, one of the reasons you knew this is because two Fridays ago, the Wall Street Journal released an article saying that the Fed was going to hike 75 and then pause, right? And the reason we know that's significant is because in the past, the Fed has used the Wall Street Journal as a conduit to let the market know. And not only did that happen on that Friday, but then literally an hour later, the Japanese central bank then intervened. And to me, that was a very coordinated event where it told you that central banks aren't just closing their eyes and doing what's just right for their country. They're paying a global attention to the other countries out there, and they're kind of coordinating.
What do you think, and how do you think, will ETH continue to track with what's happening with Bitcoin through this fall and early to next year, Gareth? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I do. I think for the most part, they're tied. I think the weird divergence could come when we get the regulatory stuff and from Gary Gensler at the SEC, because again, there's going to be this defining difference where we know that Bitcoin is a commodity. We know that likely an Ethereum is more of a security, but we don't know the specific rules that the crypto markets have to play by. And I think as you start to see this come out, it makes sense that you'll start getting varied valuations, right? What does a commodity get valued at versus a security like Ethereum could be? And what are the rules that it has to abide by? So I think that this is going to be a pivotal point where you could see maybe potentially Ethereum really start to play catch up to Bitcoin in terms of market cap. If the regulatory stuff is put into the right form, right? It's all about the right form. Yeah, I do think Ethereum would go higher. And if I show my chart, I'll show you where. So it's going to have some interesting levels. And if you take the all-time high on Ethereum going back to November of 2021, and you stretch a trend line right here, you actually have Ethereum just underneath that level. And that's going to be the big test for Ethereum. If it can get through there, you've got some potential solid upside north of 2,000. But I think as a trader and an investor, we have to really be watching this. Like it's right around 1,680 bucks. You got to see, can it get through there? If it does, you got quite a bit of upside at minimum back to this double top right here, maybe even higher. But right now it's stuck below resistance. Maybe the Fed news will push it through that level. Yeah, so I mean, number one, if they have a good decision, this thing can rip. There's no doubt about that, right? So if it goes the way of XRP, this thing probably has maybe $1 written all over it. But that's a big if, right? And so we have to kind of be aware of that is a question mark. It's not really what I would call a high percentage trade to know what the judge or guess what the judge is going to do. What I do see is, and what I can just follow is that you had this breakout, right? Beautiful breakout outside of this longer term wedge pattern. And basically you topped out, made sense, right? This high here became this high over here, or that low became this high. And since then, we've been going sideways. And this, again, would be viewed as consolidation. So bullish consolidation as of now. The one thing I would not want to see happen, see this trend line connecting this low and this low, I don't want to see price trade below that. As long as it doesn't trade below that, I think you do have some potential upside on it, and I would probably give a slight positive bias to the judge's decision being positive to cause that rip.
Pseudonymous Bitcoin analyst Plan B has also predicted a favorable month for Bitcoin. In one of his recent tweets, the former institutional investor asks, "Are you ready for Moonvember?" The tweet now has over 7,500 likes and more than 1,000 retweets, some of the highest Plan B's tweets have received in the past weeks. Another pseudonymous crypto analyst that goes by the name Moustache on Twitter also predicted some bullish signals in November. In a Monday tweet, the pseudonymous analyst states, "NVT signal predicts that a big move for Bitcoin is coming. When the NVT signal crosses the NVT ratio and the NVT signal before was red, the price of Bitcoin has increased approximately 450% on average in the last 3 years. I expect that we will see a big green candle very soon." The analyst accompanies the tweet with this chart of the network value to transactions signal NVTS, a modified version of Chris Burnisk and Willy Woo's network value to transactions NVT ratio. The NVT ratio shows the relationship between market cap and transfer volumes. A slightly modified NVTS uses a 90-day moving average of daily transfer volume as the denominator instead of the raw daily transfer volume used in the NVT ratio. According to the charts, there have been big upside moves every time a green NVT signal preceded by red crosses the black NVT ratio. With the positive GDP report ushering a slight relief for the markets in October, could we get a Fed pivot and a much-needed Bitcoin bounce in November? Please drop your replies and thoughts on Soloway's interview and Plan B's tweet in the comments section below. Also, ensure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos. You can also check out our other videos featuring interviews, tweets, and enlightening statements from some of the biggest names and brightest minds in the industry. Thanks for watching.